So this girl is a stripper and she's made a presentation for her parents informing them why this is a really good choice. And as you watch this, I want you to ask yourself, if you were her father, how would you feel and do you find her arguments convincing?
Open your eyes now.
Okay, all right, here we go.
Are you guys ready for this?
Yes.
Okay.
I love secrets.
Now, before you start worrying or getting excited, this secret pertains to my life, doesn't affect anyone. The only reason I'm sharing is because I want the people I love and trust the most to know what's going on in my life and just be a part of my journey, okay?
And I love that. I mean, baby
Thank you. Thank you. What this secret does mean. I'm talented, I'm cool, I'm powerful, okay? What this secret does not mean. I'm pregnant or endangered, okay?
Talented, cool, and powerful.
Are you ready for this? Drum roll. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm a stripper! As in I pulled it. And I love it. Now, there are some frequently asked questions in the next slide. So first you might be thinking, why? What's the point? Well, it's a sex-positive environment, and I can express myself safely. It's a performance, the theatrics, if you will. How am I staying safe? Well, you see, there's full anonymity in this club environment. You may not know how everything works, per se.
I don't know.
But, you know, this culture of strip clubs in Portland is very much sex-positive, very safe. There's not, like, drug or shady business practices that are commonplace or anything like that. Is that why I've been able to suspiciously afford stuff? Yes, it is. It is. I make money doing that. Do I do any other kinds of sex work? No. All I do is dance, you see, and like chat with people. There's no other sort of things to it, really. Is it under the table income? No, I do pay my taxes. Now, I will be taking questions. Thank you so much for your time.
I
have no questions.
I really appreciate you being forthright and sharing your life with us.
You're welcome.
And I'm glad you are powerful.
Yes, I feel strong. It's like a skill I never thought I could learn.
So,
you know, working out.
Didn't I say something?
You did. You literally guessed. Yes.
And I can't even remember why I said that.
One of the funnest jobs I've ever had. So I just wanted to share that with you because you deserve to know.
High fives and applause. There is so much to hate about this video, but I think the aspect that was the worst, the most grating, was that falsely, sickly, sweet tone to the whole thing, as though this presentation was like empowering. Being a stripper is not empowering. As a father, this is common sense. One of your goals as a parent is to prevent your daughter from becoming a stripper. Your job to raise her in such a way so that that's not one of the things that she ends up doing. He's failed. And by being like supportive of her choice is an admission of his failure. You're meant to be a role model. You're meant to provide. You're meant to protect. That's what a father does, and he's failed in his task there, which is why he's, you know, pretending to be supportive now, because what's he going to do, raise objections at this point? He's obviously not important enough. He obviously has no choice in the matter. He has no influence. I think most fathers listening to this would agree with me that if their daughter told them that they wanted to become a stripper, they do almost anything to try and prevent that. I would take a low-paying, degrading job myself and then use the money to pay my daughter so that she wouldn't strip. To me, that's a healthy fatherly instinct, and it's terrifying that that's no longer common sense. You've got men like this who are like applauding and supporting their daughter, thinking that that's what it means to be a good father. I'm such a good dad because my daughter, who I raised as a baby, I support her decision to get naked in front of drunk men and to let them stick money down her crotch. I think I heard her say that she's from Portland. I'm not from the US, but I read online that that city has some weird values. Like, in this crazy world, I don't think it's a stretch to say that there are some women who would view being a stripper as more empowering for female choice than being a mother. As a stripper, she's independent, she's powerful, you know, she's pro-sex. As a mother, she's like some domestic slave. Oh, that's so terrible. We feel sorry for women who are mothers. I place a lot of the blame on the fact that you no longer see families in TV and movies. Like, all the characters, all the storylines seem to be about young career people. My latest Patreon video is all about the lack of representation of families in media and the damage that's doing to women. But bringing it back to this awful presentation, it's quite clear to me that this father has no choice voice to actually raise his objections, not just because he's being filmed for social media, but also because this is not a real conversation. When she asked for questions at the end, that obviously wasn't a genuine invitation. She's lecturing her parents. She's left absolutely no room for disagreement, and regrettably, conversations like this with women seem to be on the rise. Have you ever been in a conversation with a woman like that? Like, it's not a real conversation. There's not like an open-mindedness, a mutual respect, a back and forth. Even though she's talking to you, it seems more like she's talking at you. There's a particular energy that women can display when they're on that train, when they're in that mindset. There's like a certain look in their eyes, a certain sharpness to their voice. And it's like they end every sentence with this sort of challenging energy, like, go on, disagree with me, I dare you. Sometimes they're talking so fast or so loud, you feel like you can't possibly get a word in. And even if they technically ask you a question, it's not a real question because they're not actually interested in what you want to say. It's not open-ended. You're not free to answer however you like. She's asked you a question, but she's expecting a very specific answer. It's not a real question, it's a fake question, and its actual purpose is to test your loyalty. It's a loyalty test disguised as a question. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. What is a loyalty test and why do women give them? But before we get to that, I want to test you with a question of my own. What is your current skincare routine? What's that? You don't have one? If you answered that you don't have one, then it's time to fix that. I'm going to tell you about T. Chandley, the sponsor of today's video. T. Chandley was a skincare company designed with the specific needs of men in mind. They did all the research. They found the high quality ingredients needed to make an amazing product. And they understand that men are kind of lazy when it comes to their appearance, and so they've done everything they can to make it as simple and easy to use as possible. If you live inside the United States, they'll even ship it directly to your door for free. When you get the starter box, it comes with the 4 creams that you need, as well as an instruction card that tells you exactly how much to use and when to use it. You barely need to think. It's just following a recipe. You do what the card says and then watch your skin improve. People love this product. Check out these recent reviews from their website. Very good. My face feels good and hydrated. Easy to use and great instructions. I love it and the ladies love it more. And because T. Chandley is sponsoring today's video, they're giving my audience an amazing deal. Not only are you going to get the starter box at 30% off, but they're going to throw in a free gift as well. So click the link in the description box below and sort out your skin today. Okay, now returning to these questions that are not really questions, these fake questions that are actually loyalty tests. So what exactly is a loyalty test? I'll first demonstrate this with a real caricature example. Imagine you're in a conversation with a woman and she asks you, what are your thoughts on third wave feminism? That's fine, that's a real question, but imagine it sounds more like this. She says to you, third wave feminism is a perfect ideology and anybody who disagrees with it is a bigot. Don't you agree? I mean, technically that's a question, but it's not a real question. It's a loyalty test. If you don't blindly affirm her perspective, then you failed and she's going to punish you. And unfortunately, these fake questions, these loyalty tests are not as easy to detect as they used to be because women are getting better and better at disguising it. They're not going to be as obvious like in that caricature example I gave. She may well ask in a seemingly open-ended way, what are your thoughts on third wave feminism? But she doesn't actually want to hear your perspective or challenge her own or have a discussion about it. She's just testing you. And if you don't give the right answer, then you're kicked out the door. It's not a real question because she doesn't actually care what you think. She's not interested in challenging her own perspective or changing her mind. She just wants to know if you're going to pass her test or not. Now, listen closely to this next part because it's very important. It is a characteristic of a low quality woman that she values conformity over curiosity. I'm going to say that again. Low quality women value conformity above curiosity. High quality women are not like that. They've got their own perspectives, beliefs, their values, and they feel comfortable in them. They're secure in who they are. And so when they encounter a man who thinks differently than the way that they do, they don't feel personally threatened by that or need to like exert control or, force him with shame to conform to her perspective. She's actually happy to have a discussion. It's interesting. It's stimulating to her. She thinks, great, what an awesome opportunity to learn more about how other people think, to maybe even change my own mind, to stay open-minded, to better myself. That's a high quality women. Low quality women don't think that way. To them, a conversation is just a tool to enforce conformity. They don't want men expressing dissenting opinions or disagreeing with them. Not men, absolutely not. Those toxic patriarchal abusers, all they need to do is to know their place, to get in line. She wants loyalty. That's what she's testing you for. Is your answer going to confirm that you're loyal to her, that you're going to support her in what she believes? Sadly, it's conventional wisdom to a lot of women that the way to address the inequality of the past is to act this way in the present. What I mean is that women historically didn't have their opinions taken very seriously. Men were the heads of the household, but now they're just flipping the genders. It's like, no, women's opinions, women's feelings are elevated. They're special, and men have to just bow down to what women think. It's such a shame because at that point, you've lost any sense of moral high ground that you might have had. It exposes the lie that this was ever about equality. No, it's about supremacy and control. If you want to see some real life examples of this to see how the theory plays out in the real world, check out my course. You'll see real women and real stories. It's fascinating. But to take this back to that clip that I played at the beginning of this video with that woman who's a stripper and she's giving that presentation to her parents, she's a perfect demonstration of this because did you notice after each one of her points, she didn't leave a pause. She didn't leave space. There's no real room for discussion or questions. She'd already made up her mind that what she was doing was an empowering choice. She'd already reached a definitive conclusion. And so the purpose of this entire thing was just a loyalty test. Like, this is me. I'm your daughter. This is what I say is good for me. Don't you agree? There's absolutely no room for her parents to express sincere doubts or concerns. Now, I'm not saying the father should have jumped up and flipped the table and says, "You're not doing this," and screamed at her or any nonsense like that. But there has to be room for him to exist, to be a real person with his own emotional process and concerns. The way that the daughter went about it was that there was absolutely no room for his internal experience at all. The only thing left available to him was to sign his name on the dotted line at the end of the contract saying, "Yes, I approve, I agree." But it could have been so different. Imagine if this presentation wasn't a loyalty test. Maybe she actually valued her mother and her father and she was open to a discussion and she genuinely wanted to reassure them and talk through their concerns rather than just steamroll them. It could have been a very soft, quiet discussion, definitely not filmed for social media, where she said, I respect you. I have a choice that might be difficult for you to hear. I want to take the time to address all of your concerns. I'm happy for you to ask me anything. Let's respect each other. Let's be mature and responsible about this. Actually give her mother and father space to process how they feel about this and to ask real questions. Doesn't that sound so much better than just demanding conformity and loyalty? If she gave him the space, then he could have done what I'm sure he was dying to do, which is say, hey, I love and I respect you, but this scares me. I have some concerns. Can we talk about them? A conversation like that could be so fruitful. Each person's perspectives could be enlarged and they could feel so much closer to each other at the end of that conversation. It could take hours, but it's worth it. Isn't that so much better than just lecturing your parents with this is me, this is what I've chosen, and you better be on board? When you're in the dating market, you need to be on the lookout for this. You need to try and find a woman who values curiosity above conformity. When something comes up on the date that the two of you disagree about, does she express curiosity? Does she want to know about you, what you think, what you feel? Does she want to explore those ideas? Or is her aim to just use shame and guilt to try and get you to conform to her perspective as quickly and viciously as possible? In practical terms, what you need to look out for is a woman who speaks to you with calmness, with respect. She asks follow-up questions. She asks to clarify certain things that you've said. She doesn't interrupt you. She lets you finish. She reflects upon what you've said and then expresses her own thoughts, and the two of you have a mutually enjoyable dialogue. That's what you want. That's what you need to be looking out for. What you don't want is a woman who's loud or closed off or interrupts you when you're speaking or assumes the worst. It's such an awful low-quality behavior when a woman hears you start to explain something and then just jumps in and interrupts you because she's made the worst possible interpretation of what you've said. So she just jumps down your throat. Women like that, it's such a dehumanizing experience to speak with them because they don't even see the real person sitting in front of them. To them, you're just like a tool, like a springboard for their own agenda. They're looking for an excuse to get upset and to cast you in the role of the enemy so she can stand up against you and feel good about yourself. It's exhausting. It's toxic. You don't want a woman who's positioning herself as your enemy. You want a teammate. You want somebody who's curious about you. And if difficult emotions arise inside of her based on something you've said, you want her to communicate those to you in a respectful way. And of course, hopefully this goes without saying, but the exact same expectation exists for you. As a man, you need to be curious. You need to be open-minded when you're speaking with women. Now, maybe amongst your male friends, like your sports teammates or whatever, you enjoy insulting each other, having heated arguments and debates. It's all in good fun. But you can't bring that same energy to a woman that you're speaking to on a first date. If she's a high-quality woman, she's not going to appreciate that kind of combative energy. Over the years, when I've been answering people's questions, giving them advice on Hey Hero, which is where you can reach out and talk to me, I've seen so many different situations where men have lost a woman because they couldn't help but argue with her. They were lost in the intellectual thrill of debate and were completely blind to the emotions of what the woman was going through. Some guys who do that paint themselves as the victims and say, oh, modern women are so fragile they can't handle being challenged. Dude, if it's happening again and again in multiple relationships with multiple women, you're the common denominator. The problem's with you. You've got to chill out. So this is not something that's necessarily gendered, but I'm making this video as a word of caution for men to be on the lookout for women like this. You don't want to be dating any women who are giving you these loyalty tests. The irony, of course, is that she's trying to test you to see whether you pass and fail, but the mere fact that she thinks that it's appropriate to test you in this way means that she should be failing your standards, failing your test. It's dehumanizing, it's disrespectful, it's a massive red flag. You don't need to be dating a woman like that. You should be looking for something better. Find a woman who values curiosity over conformity.